Have you ever felt a sudden, almost unexplainable shift inside yourself, as if a veil was being lifted, giving you a clearer view of who you are and how the world really works? That moment is often the beginning of what many call a spiritual awakening. But it's important to understand, this isn't a straight road. It's not like following a map with a start and a finish. Instead, think of it as a spiral, more like DNA, where you might loop back through old lessons, skip certain steps, or circle around before moving forward. Every awakening journey is unique. No two paths look exactly the same. Yet, there are patterns and shared experiences that tie all of us together. And when you recognize these stages, it becomes easier to understand where you are on your own path, and what lies ahead. In this video, we're going to walk through the 5 stages of spiritual awakening, clear and simple. We'll explore the signs of each stage, the challenges you'll face, and the breakthroughs waiting for you. By the end, you might recognize exactly which stage you're in right now. Stage 1, the unconscious self. The very first stage of spiritual awakening begins in a place we're all familiar with, the realm of the ego. At this point, most people are completely wrapped up in their own thoughts and emotions without realizing they are something separate from them. The ego runs the show, creating a sense of me that's tightly tied to personal stories, traumas, successes, and failures. In this state, life often feels like it's just happening to you. You react instead of create. You defend instead of open. You may feel trapped by anger, fear, or negativity. When trauma shows up, it only strengthens the belief that you're powerless, that control over your life is an illusion. The unconscious stage is where people view their entire world through the lens of their personal identity, so much so that it becomes difficult to truly see anyone else. Everything is filtered through projection, bias, or self-preservation. Relationships may feel strained, and misunderstandings multiply, because clarity is missing. This stage isn't wrong. It's the natural starting point of almost every journey. But it does come with a sense of heaviness, a nagging feeling that something is missing. It is only when you begin to question, is this all there is, that the first crack in the wall of unconsciousness begins to show. That small crack opens the doorway to the awakening path. Stage 2, ego death. When that door finally opens, you step into one of the most powerful and, at times, frightening stages of the journey, ego death. Now, ego death doesn't mean your physical self dies. What dies is the illusion, the false identity you've been building your whole life. Think of all the labels you carry, your gender, your job title, your age, your religion, your family role. During ego death, all of that begins to fall away. It's not gentle. In fact, it often feels like the ground beneath you has been pulled out. The beliefs you held about God, life, or even your own worth suddenly dissolve. For many, this leaves behind a void, a sense of emptiness or detachment. But this emptiness is not a punishment. It's space. Space for something more authentic to rise. Here, you begin to notice something profound. There's a part of you that simply watches. The observer. It doesn't judge, it doesn't react, it just notices. In the unconscious stage, that observer was buried under noise. But now it's stepping forward, showing you that you are not your thoughts, not your emotions, not even your story. Ego death is the great unmasking. And while it can feel disorienting, like losing your identity, it is also liberating. You finally begin to see that the ego is just a construct. A costume built from conditioning, culture, and past experiences. The moment you realize the ego isn't who you really are, you experience one of the greatest shifts in perspective a human being can have. It doesn't mean you'll never struggle again, but it does mean you've taken a huge step toward true freedom. Stage 3, the search. Once the ego dissolves, even just partially, a natural question rises: if I'm not my ego, then who am I? This launches you into the third stage, the search. The search is fueled by longing. You start hungering for truth, for deeper meaning. Suddenly, surface-level living doesn't satisfy you anymore. You want answers to the big questions: why am I here? What is the purpose of life? What is God, really? People in this stage often dive headfirst into books, podcasts, spiritual teachers, and videos. They may try out meditation, prayer, journaling, or even practices like channeling and energy work. Some might seek out communities of like-minded souls, while others retreat inward, hoping to find answers in solitude. This search is not just an intellectual exercise. It's a soul-driven quest. Every new insight feels like a spark of recognition, like remembering something you've always known deep down. And little by little, the pieces start to connect. But this stage can also be overwhelming. There's so much information, and not all of it aligns. You may find yourself questioning everything, flipping from one belief system to another. This is natural. It's all part of the refining process, discovering what resonates with your soul and discarding what doesn't. At its best, the search feels like illumination. Every day brings small awakenings, moments where the universe seems to whisper directly to you. These flashes of clarity draw you closer and closer to your authentic essence. Stage 4, Emergence of the Authentic Self. After the search deepens and you've gathered insights, practices, and experiences, something powerful begins to happen. You start to notice that you can no longer pretend. This is the stage of the authentic self emerging. The masks you used to wear, the versions of yourself that fit neatly into family roles, cultural expectations, or professional demands, begin to crack. Pretending to be someone you're not starts to feel almost painful. And with each attempt to fit back into the old mold, your soul pushes back harder. This stage is both beautiful and disruptive. It's beautiful because you feel closer to the raw essence of who you were before life conditioned you, before society told you who you should be. It's disruptive because it often forces big changes. Jobs that no longer resonate start to feel unbearable. Relationships that once felt secure suddenly reveal themselves as unbalanced. Hobbies, habits, or even entire lifestyles fall away because they no longer reflect the truth of who you are. It's not uncommon for people in this stage to make major life decisions, quitting careers, moving to new places, ending long-term partnerships. To outsiders, it may look chaotic or even reckless. But to the person going through it, these shifts feel necessary, even inevitable. The authentic self is impatient. It doesn't want to be buried anymore. And alongside the external changes, there are internal transformations as well. Old wounds may resurface, not to punish you, but to be healed. Emotional roller coasters are common. One day you feel liberated, the next you feel raw and exposed. But with every wave, you purge layers of energy that no longer serve you. Physically, you might also notice what many call ascension symptoms, your body adjusting to new energetic frequencies. These can include vivid or lucid dreams, flashes of intuition, sudden emotional releases, or even physical sensations that don't quite fit into medical explanations. Some people report surges of creativity, a magnetic pull toward nature, or moments of time distortion. Through it all, your authentic self grows stronger. Slowly but surely, it takes the driver's seat of your life. And in doing so, it clears the path toward the final stage of awakening. Stage 5, Living in Alignment. If the authentic self is the unveiling, then the final stage is the embodiment. This is living a life of alignment, where your inner truth and your outer world finally match. In this stage, life doesn't become perfect, but it becomes deeply harmonious. You're no longer fighting yourself. You're no longer bending and twisting to fit an image or expectation. Instead, you live from a place of self-compassion, acceptance, and integration. You recognize your limitations and imperfections, but rather than judging them, you embrace them as part of the human experience. The same compassion you extend to yourself naturally begins to flow toward others. In alignment, relationships take on a new quality. You no longer force or chase connections. Instead, you relate to others from a place of empathy and understanding, recognizing that everyone is on their own unique path. You stop needing to fix or control others, because you know their awakening is unfolding in its own divine timing. This stage is also marked by a shift in how you relate to the world itself. You feel a deeper connection with nature, animals, even the elements around you, the trees, the air, the earth beneath your feet. The idea of interconnectedness stops being a philosophy and becomes a lived reality. You might also notice that your sense of purpose feels clearer. Work, creativity, or service to others becomes an expression of your alignment. Even small, everyday actions, like how you eat, speak, or move, start to feel sacred. But living in alignment doesn't mean you only embrace light and joy. It also means acknowledging the shadow, the pain, the suffering, the struggles of humanity, not with cynicism, but with compassion. You see the darkness not as a flaw, but as a vital part of the whole. This final stage is, in many ways, a return. A return to your truest essence. A return to the simplicity of being who you always were beneath the noise. It is the homecoming your soul was searching for all along. Closing thoughts. Spiritual awakening isn't a straight line. It's not about racing to the finish. It's about unfolding, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, but always in the timing your soul needs. The 5 stages, the unconscious self, ego death, the search, the emergence of the authentic self, and living in alignment, are not checkboxes to tick off. They are waves of transformation that rise, recede, and sometimes circle back. You may revisit a stage multiple times, deepening your understanding each time you pass through. Wherever you are on this path, know this: you are exactly where you need to be. The fact that you're even reflecting on these stages is proof that awakening is already happening within you. If these insights resonate with you, share them with someone who might also be walking this journey. And I'd love to hear your story. What stage do you feel you're in right now? Drop a comment below and let's connect. The journey as a whole. Let's take a step back and look at the entire arc of this awakening process, not just as a list of stages, but as a lived story. Awakening often begins quietly. Sometimes it's triggered by trauma, loss, or a life-changing event. Other times, it's simply a slow burn, an inner whisper that grows louder over the years until it can't be ignored. At first, life feels heavy. The unconscious stage is like walking through fog. You wake up, go through routines, and feel like everything is happening to you. Bills pile up, relationships challenge you, and emotions swing like a pendulum. You wonder, is this all there is? That quiet dissatisfaction is the soul knocking, asking for more. Then comes ego death, the earthquake of awakening. It can feel like losing everything: your identity, your beliefs, your sense of control. People often describe this stage as terrifying but liberating, like standing in the ruins of your old life and realizing you are still here, watching, breathing, surviving. The observer self shines through like a candle in the dark. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. From there, the hunger begins. The search is like diving into a vast ocean. You read books late into the night, binge-watch lectures, meditate for hours, or travel in search of teachers. Some days you feel enlightened, other days you feel more lost than ever. But through it all, a deeper current pulls you forward. Every piece of wisdom, every new practice, feels like a breadcrumb leading you home. Then, without warning, the authentic self rises. You find yourself unable to keep up old masks. Maybe you walk away from a job that drains you, or you end a relationship that no longer resonates. Friends may not understand, and society might call it reckless. But inside, you know it's the only way to honor the truth bubbling up from within. The childlike essence you once had, the one buried under years of expectations, comes back to life. And finally, alignment. This isn't about floating off into bliss and ignoring reality. It's about weaving your inner truth into everyday life. You live authentically, but also compassionately. You forgive yourself. You forgive others. You see the divine in trees, in strangers, even in the struggles of the world. Alignment is not the end of the journey, it's the place where journey and destination become one. Why these stages matter? Why does recognizing these stages matter? Because when you know where you are, you stop thinking you're crazy or broken. If you're in ego death and it feels like the ground has been ripped away, you realize you're not losing your mind, you're shedding illusions. If you're in the search and overwhelmed by too many books, teachers, or methods, you realize that this confusion is part of refining your truth. And if you're stepping into authenticity and your life feels like it's falling apart, you understand it's not destruction, it's rebirth. Awakening isn't about escaping life. It's about finally living it, fully, presently, and in connection with something greater than yourself. Living the awakening. So how do you live this awakening, moment to moment? Stay present. Awakening isn't in the past or future. It's in the breath you're taking right now. Be compassionate with yourself. You won't master these stages overnight. You'll revisit them, circle them, dance with them. That's the nature of growth. Trust your path. Your awakening won't look like anyone else's. It doesn't need to. The spiral is unique for every soul. Embrace community. Share your journey. Listen to others. Sometimes just knowing you're not alone is the medicine you need. Honor the mystery. You don't need every answer. In fact, the beauty of awakening is that it keeps unfolding, deeper and deeper. Final reflection. Wherever you are right now, pause and acknowledge yourself. You've already begun the journey just by being curious enough to listen, to reflect, to ask the questions others might avoid. The unconscious self, ego death, the search, authenticity, alignment, they are not just stages. They are invitations. Invitations to remember who you truly are. So I'll leave you with this question: which stage do you feel your soul is in today? Leave a comment and share your story. Not only will it help you reflect, but it may inspire someone else who feels alone in their journey. And if this video resonates with you, please share it with a friend or loved one who might need to hear these words. The awakening journey is personal, but it was never meant to be walked in isolation. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and most importantly, stay true to your awakening path.